Welcome to Prayer and Bible Band, Lesson 8. I do not own the rights to this music. Today's topic is the responsibility of the believer to the unbeliever. The background reading is coming out of Proverbs chapter 14, verse 21, Isaiah chapter 41, verse 6, Romans chapter 15, verse 2, Hebrews chapter 10, verses 23 through 25, John chapter 13, verses 34 through 35, Galatians chapter 5, verse 13, 1 John chapter 1, verse 7, and 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 9. The devotional reading, Matthew chapter 5, verses 3 through 16. Our central verse, I will read the King James Version first and then the New Living Translation of 1 John chapter 3, verse 17. But whoso hath this world's good, and seeth his brother have need, and shutteth up his bowels of compassion from him, how dwelleth the love of God in him? The New Living Translation. If someone has enough money to live well, and sees a brother or sister in need, but shows no compassion, how can God's love be in that person? The key terms for today's lesson: constrain, contagious, special, bond. Constrain, to force by imposed stricture, restriction, or limitation. Contagious, transmissible by direct or indirect contact with an infected person, exciting similar emotions or conduct in others. Special bond, a uniting or binding force or influence that is more than usual and unique. The introduction says, the believers have been given clear instructions about their responsibility to one another. They must never forget that they are all one body and will always need one another. One of the first responsibilities is to love one another, as found in John chapter 13, verses 34 through 35. God is love, and each believer should see himself as an extension of God working here on earth. Jesus said that the world would know that believers belong to him because of their love for one another. Because of this great love, they can love their neighbor as they love themselves. Love can heal another person. The believers must remember that they are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, and they are here in this world to show the praises of God, who called them out of darkness into his marvelous light. And that's 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. Only when the believer knows his responsibilities toward other believers will it be easier for him to take care of his responsibility toward the unbelievers. He must do the things that Jesus talked about in Matthew chapter 5 to let his light shine so the unbelievers can see his good works and glorify his Father in heaven. The unbeliever needs to know the spirituality and the loving embrace that the believer has for Jesus. They must see your commitment and sacred journey as you walk, talk, and live for Jesus. The hope and the inspiring devotion of the believers should give the unbeliever a desire to find a greater and deeper understanding of a life committed to Jesus. The discussion says, the church is a body of baptized believers who love one another with a special affection. They even address each other as fathers, mothers, sisters, and brothers. The body of Christ has a special bond that no other group of people has. They realize that they are connected in such a strong, positive way. They have a special love for the household of faith. When the disciples first came together, most didn't know each other, but in 3 short years, they became a family who lived, walked, ate, and looked out for each other. The believers don't mind serving one another. Mary, Martha, and Lazarus lived in Bethany, which was not far from Jerusalem. They became Jesus' extended family and offered hospitality to him whenever they had an opportunity. When he would pass that way, he took time to stop, visit, and break bread with them because he loved and appreciated them. Believers know how to show appreciation to one another, and the unbelievers usually note this. When Daniel and the 3 Hebrew boys were taken captive in Babylon. They had a special kinship. They came from the same area, but we have no record that indicates that they were related. Their love and commitment to God bound them together. They were able to have fellowship with one another and offer a united front when they decided to obey the laws of God rather than comply with the desires of the pagan king. Being far from home without their biological family, they must have felt lonely and alone. Their love for God brought them together and helped them endure whatever they had to endure. Every believer's responsibility is to love, serve, be kind, and encourage one another. The New Testament church understood they needed to stand together and help one another. When they saw their brother in need, they were willing to share. They had all things in common. They prayed together. When Peter was in jail, they all came together and prayed until God sent an angel and led Peter out of jail. What a great testimony of victory it would be in the modern day church if the modern day church felt such togetherness, bonded, and helped one another through prayer and support. No stranger should ever have to feel strange when he is with the believers. God always instructed his people to be mindful of how they entertained strangers, for some had entertained angels unawares. And that's Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2. In conclusion, only after the believers show their love to one another will they be able to show the responsibility to the unbeliever. It is the responsibility of the believer to live a godly life in front of the unbeliever and let their lives be a witness to them. A believer's life is the most excellent witness he could ever have toward an unbeliever. It is the responsibility of the believers to go into the hedges and highways and compel the unbelievers to come to Jesus so God's house can be filled. He cannot save the unbeliever, but his life can constrain him from wanting what he has. The believer should enjoy living for Jesus until it causes the unbelievers to want what the believers have. His joy should be so great that it becomes contagious. He is responsible for standing firm in his faith and letting the unbelievers see his commitment to God. The unbelievers should know the believers' good works and glorify their Father who is in heaven. The questions for today's lesson. Number 1, why is it important for believers to know how to entreat one another? Number 2, what are some of the things that believers should do to influence unbelievers? Number 3, what was so amazing about the disciples' relationship? And number 4, how can letting your light shine help the unbelievers? The essential thought: if living for Jesus is exciting to the believers, it will cause the unbelievers to desire what he has. The end. God bless you and thank you for joining me today.